In order to learn about the group life cycle, you are able to create a mini book or write a narrative that shows the story of 3 or more people, animals, or objects as they travel from forming to storming to norming to performing. Let's look at the project. Notice the cover has a title, an illustration, and the name of the author. The second page has characters. If there's only one character, that would be intrapersonal communication. If there were only 2 characters, that would be interpersonal communication. So there must be 3 or more. In my story, I created 4 unique original characters. If you are choosing to do a summary of a book, movie, or TV show, then these will not be original characters. However, keep in mind, if it's unoriginal content, the highest grade you can receive is a 2, and it also can't be published, since it violates the copyright and royalty laws. My 4 characters each have a unique personality. For example, Leah is a shy and quiet girl. Beth is a loud and bossy leader. Justin is a lazy and slightly whiny slacker. And Mark is a silly and sometimes slower guy. The next page says Chapter 1 Forming very clearly. Make sure you're labeling each of the 4 chapters as you go. Notice that it has an illustration, 2 or more pieces of dialogue, and a story. The story needs to clearly explain how the group formed or came together. The dialogue needs to be appropriate to each character's personality and also to what people actually say when they're forming. Things like introducing themselves. Hi, I'm Leah. The reason why they're together. I'm lost too. My name is Justin. Chapter 2 is labeled Storming. Make sure you've clearly labeled it. In this chapter, make sure you have an illustration, at least 2 pieces of dialogue, and a story. In storming, there's conflict, usually because people don't know what role they have or what the rules are. In my story, there are 2 people that want to be a leader and 1 person who doesn't want to participate. That makes them very uncomfortable and in conflict. Chapter 3 is labeled clearly Chapter 3, Norming. Notice there's an illustration, 2 or more pieces of dialogue, and a story. In norming, people figure out what is normal for their group. Who is the leader? Who is the follower? Who helps or is a cheerleader? And even if there's someone who's a little bit more of a slacker. Doesn't that sometimes happen when we're assigned groups or when we're in large groups? Also, they figure out what the rules are. One of the rules in my group is no singing. Chapter 4 is clearly labeled as Performing. Notice there's an illustration, 2 or more pieces of dialogue, and a story that explains how the group is able to perform a task successfully. Now my story would receive a 3 grade because it follows all of the expectations. It has 8 pages, 3 or more characters, and an illustration, story, and 2 or more pieces of dialogue for every section. But beyond that, it clearly shows how a group acts, interacts, and speaks during each of the 4 stages of the group life cycle. Because it's all original content and it's not based on another story, book, or movie, it could be a 3 grade. If I did a summary, that would have been a 2 grade. Or maybe if I didn't have very specific content. For example, if I didn't have any dialogue, or my story was small and didn't explain how the group formed. A 1 grade would either be with 1 person or 2 people, so it doesn't show forming, or an unfinished work, so I can't tell if you understand the 4 stages of the group life cycle. I hope that helps.